To get stronger and you want to build muscle and you want to do both of those things whilst trying to get better at running or some form of endurance training. Now, when I first started my lifting career, I spent years trying to find the perfect training program. I was getting information from bodybuilders whose programs would leave me too sore to run or to do other forms of exercise. I was taking sessions from runners whose exercises were done on Bosu balls with really light weights, and I was never going to build any muscle training that way. Over the last 5 years, I've coached hundreds of people to get stronger, to build muscle, to improve their running times. I've helped people get 5K PBs, prepare for multi-day ultra marathons, to getting double body weight deadlifts, okay? And this is the way that I train, and what I'm going to show you in this video is how I would structure what I would deem a pretty perfect training program for most people who are chasing multiple goals at the same time. In this video, I'm going to cover 3 main points. Firstly is going to be the training split. Should it be a bro split, an upper body, a full body? What should it be? Number 2 is going to be what to do within the actual session. What exercises should you do? What order should you do them in? This is even more important than the training split itself. And then finally, even more important than the first 2, is how much to do and how hard to work to make sure that you actually get the results you're after. I'm Jack. I've been coaching for over 5 years. I've helped hundreds of people just like you get results time and time again. In the description is a link to one-to-one coaching if you're interested in that. But if you aren't quite ready, there is a link to a training program builder which you can use to help design your own training program that not only factors in how many days a week you have available to train, but it also factors in whether you want to prioritize lifting or running, and it will also give you a spreadsheet with a place for you to actually log and track your workouts. Like I say, link is in the description. It's free to download. You can use it as and when and as many times you like to. First thing, what is the best training split? Now, the question that we always have to ask is how many days a week do we have available to train? And that's how we determine what the best training split is. Whether you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 days a week to train, maybe you can do 2 sessions a day. What should you do? Well, I'm going to talk about my experience and what a lot of my clients do. Now, we're not professional athletes, so we have limited training time. We're doing it around job stress and work and family and everything else. So the optimal point in terms of strength training alone, so we're not talking about running today or any other activities you do outside of your strength training, I'm purely talking about your strength training. 3 days is the sweet spot. If you're trying to get stronger, if you're trying to build muscle, 3 days a week is a perfect place to be. A full body split in this instance is going to be the best way to go. The only stipulation to this would be that if you have to do training days back to back, say for instance you have to do a Saturday and a Sunday, I'd maybe look at doing a full body, an upper body and then a lower body. But if it's just most of the time you can have at least 1 rest day, you're going to be good doing full body sessions. That's going to be the best way to go. Part 2. So what to do within these sessions. Now, I'm going to give you, to start with, a skeleton of how an individual session should look. So you're going to come into the gym, you're going to jump on the bike and you're going to do 5-minute warm-up, okay? Don't care if it's the bike or the rower or the skier or the stairmaster, get your heart rate up. Then is going to be your prep work. So this is going to, and I'll explain this later on, but this is going to link to your primary strength movement for the day, but it's essentially working on any sort of bits of mobility or prehab work that you need to do to prepare yourself for the session that you're about to go through. This should, from the start of coming into the gym to this point, take you about 7 to 8 minutes. Then we're going into our plyometric, explosive, ballistic movements. So I'm thinking jumping, sprinting, throwing, slamming med balls, anything like that that's fast, explosive, aggressive. This is going to help prime and potentiate us for our strength movements. But in order to do this, we need to be fresh when we perform these movements to get the most out of them, hence why they're the first main bit of our session and always done before we get into our heavy lifting. Then we go into our primary strength exercise. So this is going to be what the focus is for the day. What is the main exercise or quality that we're trying to improve? That's what we're going to put in that section. Then we've got our secondary strength exercises. So when we think of exercise, I like to think of them in buckets. So we've got a squat, a hinge, and a push and a pull. So if our primary strength exercise is a push, we need a hinge, a pull, and a squat in the secondary strength exercise to fill each bucket for that session. Then in the last part of the session, we've got accessory exercises, which hit things that are a little bit outside of those buckets. So things like isolation work, say biceps, triceps, lateral raises, hamstring curls, core work, anything like that. Okay, so thinking single joint movements and core work predominantly is what I put in that accessory bucket. Okay, so that is the skeleton that you're going to follow for each of these sessions. But what do we actually put within each section within that skeleton? So this is the framework that I would use for a 3-day full body training split. So warm up, prep work. Prep work is going to be decided by your primary strength movement. So day 1 or Monday is going to be your squat. So we're going to do a barbell back squat. So your prep work is going to be focused around the hips, knees, and or ankles to get you prepped and primed for the squat. Your explosive work is going to be focused on jumping high. So we're picking plyometric exercises with a vertical emphasis, as that's going to help potentiate us for the squat. And I like to pair my movements like that together. So we're thinking box squats, hurdle jumps, okay? You might also add in some other exercises like pogo jumps potentially. You could have a little series of movements within this section. Primary strength exercise, as mentioned, is going to be a squat. Then our secondary strength is going to be exercises from each bucket that we haven't filled so far. So you've got a hinge, you've got a push, and you've got a pull. Okay, so I'm going to go for an incline dumbbell bench press. I'm going to go for a single arm dumbbell row, and I'm going to go for a single leg Romanian deadlift. Okay. 3 exercises there. My accessory work is going to be bicep curls and it's going to be sit-ups. Nice and simple. Okay? Day number 2, same framework. My primary exercise this time is going to be a barbell deadlift. Okay, so that's a hinge movement, which means that my priming work is going to be focused around the glutes, the hamstrings and the hips, our posterior chain. Our plyometric and explosive work is going to be focused again around horizontal projection. So we're thinking about jumping as far as we can. So thinking something like broad jumps, triple broad jumps, sort of hopping and bounding exercise where we're trying to go forward in space. Then we've got our deadlift. Then we've got our secondary strength exercises. So I know that on day 1 that I picked a single arm dumbbell row, I picked a single leg Romanian deadlift, and I picked an incline dumbbell bench. So for my pushing movement, I'm going to go for a dumbbell shoulder press because I did a horizontal press on day 1. So I'm going to go for a vertical press to make sure I'm hitting the shoulders. I'm going to go for a single leg squat. So I'm going to go for a rear foot elevated split squat because I did a bilateral squat on that other day. And then I'm going to go for a vertical pull. So I'm going to go for a pull up because I did a horizontal row on my other day. And then for my accessory exercises, I'm going to go for a rotational exercise. So I'm going to go for some cable rotations and I'm going to go for some tricep extensions, hitting other exercises within that accessory bucket that I haven't done already. My third day, my primary exercise is going to be an upper body push. So I'm going to go for a barbell bench press. My primary work is going to be around the shoulders and scapula to get primed. So I'm going to go for some dumbbell Y raises. My explosive movement is going to be upper body pushing. So I'm thinking like med ball chest pass or plyometric push-ups with drop catches or something along those lines. Obviously you've got your barbell bench press, my secondary strength from the other buckets. I'm thinking I'm going to go for another horizontal row, but this time rather than an elbow that's close to my body, I'm going for a more flared elbow to hit more of the upper back, rear delts and traps. So maybe like a wide grip sort of T-bar row. I'm going to go for another chest exercise because I want to emphasize my chest. So I'm going to go for some dips. And I'm going to go for another squat variation, but this time I'm going to work in a different plane of motion. So I'm going to go for a Cossack squat. So I'm going to hit the adductors and the hips in a slightly different way than I haven't hit yet in the other 2 squat exercises that I've picked. My accessory work, I'm going to pick some lateral raises and I'm going to pick some rear delt flies. So little smaller muscle groups around the shoulder that I haven't directly hit yet this week. So there's a 3-day training program. You can see and understand the logic of why I've picked each exercise. Now, this is a very balanced program where I'm working on each quality in each muscle group quite evenly. If I wanted to emphasize building muscle or building strength or really developing a certain quality, we can start to remove volume from certain buckets of exercise and add that volume to the areas we want to work on. So I like to think of it as pushing one movement quality or one type of fitness we're trying to improve up whilst the other maintains, and then we might shift emphasis and we start to push this one up while this one maintains, and we repeat that process throughout the year, because as we get more experienced, in order to get better, we tend to need to do a little bit more or work on things slightly differently, and just doing an evenly balanced minimal program isn't quite cutting it a lot of the time. So this is how we can shift our emphasis to work on any lagging body parts or any strength deficits that we need to hit. Now, part number 3, how much do we need to do and how hard to do it? Well, if we're trying to build muscle, there's a couple of main factors that we need to think about. Firstly is the frequency. So we need to make sure we're hitting each muscle group at least 2 or 3 times per week, and we need to make sure that we're doing it close to failure. So we've got the first part covered. In terms of taking it close to failure, what does that mean? Well, that means that we are taking a muscle close to muscular failure at the point at which eventually, if we were to carry on going in a set, if I put a gun to your head, you physically could not do one more rep. Now, we don't necessarily need to go all the way to that point. In fact, I wouldn't advise it, particularly on your primary strength movements. I would leave 1 to 3 reps in the tank, or reps in reserve, as we refer to it as. For your secondary strength exercise, I'll be looking to take these a little bit closer, so maybe leave 1 rep in the tank. Your accessory exercises I'll take all the way to failure. Okay, so we always want to make sure technique stays exactly the same throughout a set. We don't want any deviation in technique apart from the speed of the reps. So if your reps aren't slowing down towards the end of a set, you aren't approaching failure and you aren't going to grow muscle. If you aren't hitting that one single factor of training hard enough, it doesn't matter what exercises you pick or what order you put them in the week, it is not going to matter. Okay? Now, how much to do? As a general framework, I'm going to say you're going to do 2 to 3 sets per exercise at the intensities that I've just described, and you're just going to run with that. Nice and simple, okay? You can obviously get a little bit more tricky with certain things and slightly different sort of ways of prescribing sets and reps, and you can do clusters and all these different things, but I don't think you need to get there yet. I think straight sets, two rounds of 6 to 8 or 4 to 6 reps is more than adequate, providing that you train hard and you're training consistently. The number one mistake I see so many people make is program hopping. They think they found the perfect program, but then they just don't follow it for any more than a week or 2 because they've found a new video that's come up that goes, oh, this is the best program for this. And then they start following that. And then 2 weeks later, they change again. You aren't going to make progress if you don't consistently do good training over and over again. And good training is repeatable. It's the same stuff done repeatedly, done regularly. That is how you get results. Hopefully you found this video super useful. Hopefully you can put it to use. Like I say, the link in the bio is there if you want one-to-one coaching. If you want to download my free training program builder, please do so. I post videos just like this every single week. You can also follow me on Instagram, where you can follow along with my own training and get some more tips and tricks. That's at jacktate_coach. And if you want to receive my weekly emails where I cover topics in more depth, then sign up for that. That'll be in the description as well. Hopefully you found this useful. Please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next video.